you'll see the Delta variant continue to decrease. Our hospitals are always packed this time of the year. What's crazy is there's an oxygen shortage. So there's and they said that, and I said, what? What do you mean there's an oxygen shortage? He goes, in the supply chain, they have nobody to deliver the oxygen, and they're running out of containers for the oxygen.
I did not know that.
So because the supply chain's so disrupted because of, we're paying people to stay home.
Well, I went to the emergency Ocala medical. I never know the names. It was ORMC, Ocala Regional Medical Center. Yeah, I went to their Maricamp emergency room, which is right there next to First Baptist Church.
Yep.
And I've been hearing about how emergency rooms are overrun and blah blah blah. Well, this is a little pop-up emergency room, but you would think people get sick, they would go there. I asked the attending doctor that was working on my shoulder. I go, so, I'm in the news media and all. I need to ask you a question. Of course, you don't have to answer it if you don't want to. I go, how many COVID cases have you dealt with today? He said, I haven't had a COVID case in like a week. And this is one of the emergency rooms that's supposed to be overrun. And the attending doctor said they hadn't had a COVID case in about a week. So I don't know who to believe anymore. I don't, what ear do you listen with, and what comes in the left ear and then in the right ear, what do you believe? Because here's an attending doctor said he hadn't seen a COVID case at that pop-up emergency room in a week. But yet...
Well, that's because they don't deal with them. And because my wife is over that laboratory. So all the patients for COVID...
No, they send them down. Yeah, they send them downtown. But he said he hadn't had to do that in over a week.
Yeah, that's not surprising because most of the time, if you're getting hospitalized for COVID, it's from your practitioner.
Your private doctor, your personal doctor.
Correct.
Hey, I don't know if you saw this story, but the White House is really, if you ask me, because I know something about the Constitution, the White House is starting to cross the line that, is one that gets in that whole states' rights versus federal rights area. And I know we fought a war over it, and everybody goes, we didn't fight a war over states' rights. Yes, we did. It was just the number one state right was slavery. Okay? So let's not sugarcoat it. It was over the rights of the southern states to keep slavery as a practice. Okay? But it was still a state right issue. So with that being said, the Washington has the press secretary yesterday for Joe Biden said that they support these superintendents in Florida, Broward County, Tampa, that are saying, even though the governor has said they cannot do mask mandates or he will cut their funding, he will not give them their funding, they're still having the mask mandates. And now the federal government says, don't worry about it, we'll figure out a way to fund you. That the federal government's not in the education business. That's a state and county issue. And for the federal government to say they're going to step in, that's exceeding a line that I don't know that we want to cross.
Well, unfortunately, the Brown versus Board of Education put the federal government into education. While it was a great ruling, had to be done, but it also gave the federal government power over local schools and school district decisions. So they still have to meet some federal mandate. That's not that they're allowed to do that. In the local school district, if they elect to select that money and therefore have to follow under their guise, that's fine. But we have a Department of Education that dominates much of our politics. And if I was president, that would be the first organization.
It's the most useless cabinet member on the cabinet.
No. Department of Energy is number one.
Well, you may have something there, too. Hey, let's take a phone call real quick. You're on with Galen and Tom. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning. There are basically two things that make human people sick: bacteria and viruses. Bacteria live forever. They're always around. You can never get rid of them. Viruses are fragile. They don't like sunlight. A couple of days, they're gone. If they haven't infected somebody within 2 days of being created by whatever agency, they're gone. They're just component molecules, part of the atmosphere. And so that's
a virus has to have a host.
my 2 cents, and I'll hang up.
Thanks. A virus has to have a host. I know exactly what he's talking about. A virus has to have a host. And by the way, right now the virus that has a host is called the Washington D.C. and the host is Joe Biden.
Well, they just passed that massive
3.5 trillion
through the Senate. Let's pray for the House. That's all I can say. What that's going to do to our taxes. It just, not only does it go back on all the tax cuts we had under the last administration, it doubles. Just all you have to do is just Google capital gains tax for the infrastructure bill. Your capital gains tax are going to double.
Yep.
That's it. That's the bottom line.
So stop investing because you're going to pay a lot of money.
Correct. Absolutely right. So
stop investing.
It's really bad. There's a lot of bad things in here.
Take up gambling as your retirement.
I've been saying this for years.
Take up gambling as your retirement.
Just don't win over, what is it, 600 and whatever dollars?
Oh no, you can win as much as you can. No, you can't win more than 999 before you got to get it reported.
That's what it is.
But it's fine. Report it. Look, I did it for 10 years. There's the way the law's written. You have to put your losses versus your wins, and then you pay taxes on the difference. And if you bet a lot of horse races and all that you don't win, and you keep the tickets that that instead of throwing them on the ground at the track or the OTB, you keep them and you collect them, then you can show more losses than wins. You don't have to pay any taxes if you're a gambler. Just one of those little tidbits that you need to know. Good morning. You're on with Galen and Tom.
Good morning. What I'd like to say is that after the past couple of days of performance by the Republican Party, they have indicated that we definitely need to start backing a third party, whether it's the conservative or the libertarians or whatever, because our two-party system is not there. That's all I can say on that.
Thanks for the call.
Have a good day.
While I understand what Sonny's saying, I don't think you're ever going to have more than a two-party system at one time in this country. We had it at one point where you had the Democratic Republicans, which is the Democratic Party, party of Thomas Jefferson. You had the Federalists and you had the Whigs, but then the Whigs sort of drove the Federalists out, and that's the last time you really had three viable different parties at one time in the history of this country, and that was back in the 1820s, 1830s. I don't think you will get enough viable candidates. I don't think you'll get enough viable voters and candidates and all to support a three-party system because we're so entrenched in the two-party system now, Galen.
Yeah, that's right. It is a binary decision between the two parties. What you have to do as a voter is you have to get somebody to represent your belief from your party. And I think we need to do a better job of that on the Republican side.
Well, somebody asked me.
That's the key.
Somebody asked me last night, why was it that Donald Trump aggravated so many people? And I go, you got to understand, we do not elect the president. We elect between one of two people that big business and big money select for us to vote on as president. And Donald Trump wasn't of that ilk. He didn't have to have big business to support him. He didn't have to go to the Koch brothers and say, I need your money, and yes, you'll have a say in how I do things. He didn't have to go to people like that and ask for money and all. And so he was not able to be controlled by big business, and that's why they drove him out. Look, the Republicans, there are Republicans in the Republican Party that are just as guilty as driving Donald Trump out of Washington, D.C., as there are Democrats. And sometimes I think people think it was all the Democrats. Look, Mitt Romney and guys like him owe a lot of culpability to the administration we have in the White House right now.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. There is absolutely no doubt about that. I'll throw in the guy who ran for office before him too, McCain. I think that's why we are where we are.
And Disney has reopened the Hall of Presidents with Joe Biden for front and center, as the sitting president always is. But you know where they put Donald Trump? I think they put Donald Trump in a place that, while Disney probably did it for a malcontent reason, I think they did it accurate. They put him in the back row where they always put the president that was last president. He always goes in the back, and then it moves as more come in. But they put him right next to Andrew Jackson, the last president. The last president that wasn't a president of the establishment. He was a mountain man from Tennessee. He rode in on his horse, invited all his constituents to come party with him in the White House. He was not a politician. He wasn't from Washington. The Washington elite thought he was dumb, thought he was crass, thought his mouth was just out of control. They thought he was power hungry when he destroyed the National Bank, which, by the way, proved to be very, very smart by destroying the National Bank. Andrew Jackson was the last wild card that was president that wasn't controlled by somebody until Donald Trump. They both have crazy hair. They both were not easily controlled. They both spoke without thought of what may be coming out of their mouth at times. And I think, when they put them together at the Hall of Presidents, I go, well, for once, I think Disney got it right. You got the two guys that are most alike each other and most anti-established politicians sitting side by side at the Hall of Presidents with Andrew Jackson and Donald Trump. And don't get me wrong, before people start sending me letters at Tom at WOCA, yes, Andrew Jackson was a horrible racist. He did not like the Native Americans. He thought they were savages and thought that they should all be eradicated from the face of the earth because he had fought in Indian wars in the frontiers of Tennessee, and he had seen friends of his and all get murdered, and they murdered Indians. He had a hatred for the Native Americans, and he murdered thousands and thousands and thousands of Native Americans. That's not arguable. That's actual history. That's not history. That's not revisionist history. That's not history that makes somebody look good. That's the actual history. Andrew Jackson had a hatred for the Native Americans, Galen. That's not even something that's negotiable. That's fact.
Absolutely correct.
The Trail of Tears was Andrew Jackson.
Correct. He's just terrible. Is he? Yeah, he's definitely in your top 2 or 3 worst presidents of all time, though, too.
For his social aspects, yes, but he did get rid of the National Bank, which was a huge boon for this country.
I guess so.
But
you say so.
The worst president in the history of this country, it's not even close. Go look up, go research Warren G. Harding. He was the worst president ever to hold office.
He's on the Mount Rushmore of worst.
Oh, he was terrible.
I don't know. There have been some really bad ones. Tyler wasn't very great. There's been some really bad ones. Carter, as we move further and further away from his presidency, it gets worse. The only thing that saves Carter is he was such a good man.
He was just a good guy.
After being president, that it actually helps him compared to some of the other people who post-presidency became.
When he got elected, I remember it vividly in Georgia. When Jimmy Carter got elected in 1976, I vividly remember it. People were referring to him as the real life Mr. Smith goes to Washington.
Sure.
They thought he was a country bumpkin who had no business in Washington. And by the way, probably right.
Well, he was an honest man,
and he wasn't a Republican, and the Republicans were coming out of the Richard Nixon scandal, so they wanted honesty.
Correct.
And Jimmy Carter was honest.
But he also did everything he said he was going to do. He just could not deal with people who weren't as honest as he was. Right? I think he really thought he was dealing with the Iranians in good faith, and
they were not.
They were not, and the same is true with the oil cartel. And I think both groups, they were like, this guy, he's a pacifist,
right?
So he's not going to start a war. The Russians took advantage of that, and I think that's what happens. And that's why there's always been the theory that the most for foreign policy you have to be this wild card guy who, look, you don't know what I'm going to do. I may shake your hand. I may punch you in the face.
Yeah.
And so everybody is scared to death because they don't know how you're going to react. And that's the best foreign policy.
Yes.
Right.
Teddy Roosevelt said it best.
And by the way,
speak softly and carry a big stick.
You could say a lot of things about Nixon, but he had the best foreign policy of any president for the past 60 years. It was just simply phenomenal. And his foreign policy is what Reagan used to bring down
the wall.
The wall.
Yes.
Right. And in the Cold War, because Nixon started that. Problem was Nixon got in his own way, but his foreign policy was unmatched.
Remember, he was the first president to go to communist China.
That's correct.
You know,
and because he wanted another sphere of influence in Asia, and so that he thought that they would become more capitalistic, and they actually did the reverse. Even though their capitalism, they just play on our capitalism.
I got
he's pretty good.
Just got a text message that said Teddy Roosevelt's Bull Moose Party, viable third party. It was not. It was the Bull Moose Party was not viable. Teddy Roosevelt, as the leader of that party, was viable. He finished third in that election, a distant third, just like John Anderson did in the 1980 election, or the 84. I forget which one that John. I think it was 80. Or Ross Perot did in the 92 election, I believe. They finished distant third.
Ross Perot wins in his second bid if he doesn't pull out. If he just doesn't say, whoa, you're saying I could win this thing? I really don't want to win this thing.
Well, a lot of people said Donald Trump.
A
lot of people said Donald Trump was surprised he won. That was his first 100 days where they were trying to get feet under him because they didn't think they were going to win. I disagree with that.
Well,
but a lot of people say that.
We now know why he couldn't. Well, we now know why he couldn't get his feet under him. Because first of all, he was being blocked by everybody and investigated by every potential federal group that they could throw at him was investigating him. Right? They took his chief of staff and railroaded him. I don't care what party you're on. If you think what they did to General Flynn was right, you probably aren't an American citizen and you don't believe in our due process. They railroaded that guy.
They did. Hey, but here's what I think is going to happen at the midterms. I believe that the Biden administration is doing itself such a disservice that it's going to lose the Senate and possibly the House. And if it loses both of them, you're fixing to see all kind of impeachment things and people thrown out of office. And because the Republicans, there are a bunch of Republicans that are just waiting to be vindictive. I firmly believe that.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. And the election that's coming up, I think the House switches back to the Republican Party for the first time, since Newt Gingrich, basically. Well, no, we had it a little bit under Obama, but they screwed that up.
Well, Trump had the first 2 years of Trump.
We had an opportunity with the Tea Party. Right, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
We had an opportunity even before that with the Tea Party, when the Tea Party movement came. We had a real opportunity to change the direction of our government, and then they got up there and were destroyed. So maybe we can turn some of this around and get back to just bread and butter and not worry about infrastructure. God, I hate infrastructure. Just leave me alone.
Gotta have bridges, Galen. Gotta have bridges, Galen.
Again, I want to be very clear. Who builds the bridges?
The Florida DOT, Florida Department of Transportation.
Thank you.
Good morning. You're on with Galen and Tom.
Good morning. This is Sonny again. You're talking about the past and the history, which is all pretty good and all that, but we're talking about today. And what I think we have today, and the Republicans demonstrated it on the grand scale, is the best government money can buy. I don't care what anybody says. You got the Democrats, because the Democrat Party died and is extinct. So now we have the Democrat Party and the wannabe Democrats. We don't have a two-party system anymore. Have a great day.
Well, Sonny's fired
Yeah,
up this morning.
Mitch McConnell turned his back on us. I don't think there's any way to as the Republican Party.
And we all know the answer. We all know the answer to this problem, but it's going to have to come as a constitutional amendment. It will never happen by the people that should do it, and that's term limits. But they're never going to vote themselves out of work. So it's only going to be done through a constitutional amendment. And to do that, you have to get people to sign enough petitions to get it on all 50 state ballots. Then as to pass the 50 state ballots, I think 2/3 have to vote yes. Then it has to be once it's voted yes, then it has to be sent to all the states. 38 of the 50 states have to ratify it before it can be a constitutional amendment. And that's the only way you're ever going to get term limits on Congress and the House of Representatives and the Senate. And there's term limits on the president. And if George Washington, 2 terms was good enough for George Washington, 2 terms is good enough for any politician that goes and serves in Washington. But term limits are never going to happen if you look for the Senate and the House of Representatives to do it. I don't care which party's in charge. They're never going to vote themselves out of work. They're just not going to do it.
That's absolutely correct. That is absolutely correct. So the only hope is for a constitutional Congress. I'm all for it, by the way.
So am I. So I think term limits are long overdue. Long overdue. Galen, speaking of overdue, it's people need to understand that you're up against it with the blood bank, and it's overdue with how many people you need to come out. People need to come out and give blood now. If they want to do that today, where can they find the blood mobile?
Hey, first of all, great question, Tom. I'm glad you ask it every single day because it's so incredibly important. The blood mobile is going to be today at the Walmart. Like how I'm stalling for time as I look it up. It's going to be at the Walmart out on 40. So come by and see it and get out there.
And also, you can always donate at the office right there on the boulevard across from Chase Bank. Hey, Galen, talk to you tomorrow, pal. You're listening to Ocala Talk.
Broadcasting from the Ocala International Airport, this is WOCA AM, W242CA FM, Ocala, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
It's time for Phone Range headlines on the Southeast
USA Radio News with Lance Pry.
Peanut farmers always like to hear
Governor
good
Andrew
news.
Cuomo will be gone in 2 weeks. He's stepping down after the facts that the New York Attorney General's office showed Cuomo sexually harassed nearly a dozen women, retaliated against whistleblowers, and created a toxic workplace environment. Fellow Democrat President Biden had kind words for Cuomo's job performance.
But he's done a hell of a job. And both on everything from access to voting to infrastructure, the whole range of things. That's why it's so sad.
Lieutenant Governor Kathy Hochul will replace Cuomo until the midterm elections in 2022. On Tuesday, international seafood company Greek Seafood leaked nearly 4,000 gallons of chlorine into a Norway fjord, killing approximately 96,000 fish. Local police said the leaked chlorine had already flowed into the Atlantic Ocean and that emergency services were investigating the cause. USA Radio News.
They say the Delta variant is spreading fast. In Australia, they're even using the military to enforce new lockdowns. Will it happen here? All this week, Stinchfield answers that and more about the big bad lockdowns. Tune into Stinchfield on Newsmax. Find out about new calls for lockdowns, more masks, and even forced vaccinations. You thought it couldn't happen here. Now Stinchfield is on tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern, exposing the dangers to you and your family. He reveals who's really behind the big bad lockdowns, the real truth you need to know. Over 30 million Americans watch Newsmax. It's on all major cable systems like DirecTV, Dish, and Xfinity. If your operator doesn't carry it, call them. Tell them you want Newsmax. Plus, you can stream it for free on Roku, Samsung, LG, Pluto, Zumo, and more. And don't forget to download the free Newsmax app on your phone and watch it anytime, anywhere. Don't miss Stinchfield on Newsmax tonight.
It's time for Phone Range headlines on the Southeast AgNet. I'm Tyron Spearman reporting. Well, peanut farmers always like to hear good news about their product, peanuts. From the Peanut Institute, Dr. Samara Sterling says peanuts can help reduce the risk of heart disease, diabetes, and numerous kinds of cancer. She says a healthy snack is a powerful tool that can deliver a much-needed boost of energy any time of the day, and peanuts fits the bill. A new study, though, shows that the benefits of peanut and peanut butter consumption go beyond the body and reach the brain. In addition to protein, a single serving of peanuts is packed with 19 vitamins and minerals, including an antioxidant called resveratrol, which has been shown to increase blood flow to the brain. So, peanuts can contain high levels of niacin and are a good source of vitamin E, two nutrients that support brain health and have long been known to protect against Alzheimer's disease and age-related cognitive decline. So that is really good news from the Peanut Institute, and Dr. Cameron Sterling says that peanuts are a good item to be snacking on every day.
We are back and in person. You don't want to miss the biggest ag event of the year, the Citrus, Vegetable, and Specialty Crop Expo, August 18th and 19th at the Lee Civic Center, Fort Myers, Florida. Growers pre-register now at citrusexpo.net to be eligible to win a John Deere gun safe provided by Everglades Equipment Group. This event would not be possible without sponsors like SQM, Citrus Research Development Foundation, Tessenderlo Curley, Syngenta, Hardin & Associates, Agro Research International, and Philip Ruck's Citrus Nursery. Get all the details at citrusexpo.net. That's citrusexpo.net.
Attention farmers, you could be eligible for technical and financial assistance under a program offered by the Natural Resources Conservation Service. The Conservation Stewardship Program is now accepting applications. To learn more, visit your local USDA Service Center.
I'm Tyron Spearman for Southeast AgNet.
When it really counts, depend on the source for the latest weather updates, keeping you ahead of the storm. 96.3 FM, 1370 AM, The Source.
Variable cloudiness today with a thunderstorm this afternoon. High today 89 to 91. Then clearing skies this evening. Low tonight 73 to 76. Thursday and Friday both will have sunshine and some clouds with a thunderstorm in spots in the afternoons. High Thursday and Friday 89 to 92. From the Florida Weather Center, I'm Holly Holdren.
It's rodeo time in Ocala. The 39th annual Ocala Shrine Rodeo returns to the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion September 3rd and 4th, 7:30 nightly. Witness the superstars of the PRCA as cowboys ride to help children walk. For tickets and information, check out OcalaShrineRodeo.com for broncs, bulls, and babes. The Ocala Shrine Pro Rodeo, September 3rd and 4th, 7:30 nightly.
The Ocala Golf Club, one of Ocala's premier golf courses, from its pristine 18-hole course layout to its amazing pro shop. Jason Linhart and the staff at Ocala Golf offer everything that you need for your golf outing. That's the Ocala Golf Club. Experience country club style golf at municipal prices. You won't go wrong with the Ocala Golf Club. Call them for a tee time today, 352-401-6917.
Hi, this is Jack O'Brien, and I could tell you stories. Everett Mitchell, 75, spent his whole lifetime being a good citizen. He follows the rules, he pays his taxes, he tithes to his church, he keeps his car and his golf cart under the speed limit, and he volunteers at the Antioch Soup Kitchen in Wildwood. But last week, Rhett was waiting in an exam room for his annual physical with Dr. Hammond over at the Citrus Center Medical Arts Building. Now, Rhett is the most straight-laced guy you're ever going to meet, which makes the fix he got himself into even more painful. They stuck him in one of those cold waiting rooms with the posters and anatomical charts, but this one had a flat-screen TV, just a little bigger than an iPad, hooked to the end of a long metal gooseneck and positioned to be right at eye level if you're sitting down. So Rhett is interested in it because it has a name on it that's personalized for his visit, recommends his proper weight, his appropriate level of exercise, his calorie intake, and it even showed him his current medications. So after a couple minutes of medical history and animations, a silhouette of the human body appears with a title over it that reads, "Do you have any medical questions today?" Well, he thought this is a great way to ease his anxiety about his exam, particularly the part he dreaded, the humiliating and uncomfortable part. I know you women think men are just babies, but Rhett is a very private person, and he's easily embarrassed and a bit frightened about what he might hear from the doctor. So he looked again at the screen. It clearly said, "Do you have any medical questions today? Touch anywhere to begin." Well, Rhett thought about it for a moment. He decided he'd start with something easy. However, he didn't know that the screen is programmed to only wait so long for an answer, and then it'll move on to its next routine, which was an educational description of the various organs and systems within the body. Touch anywhere to begin, it said. So Rhett thought he'd ask about his heart, so he touched his chest. Instantly, a human heart was on the screen. But it wasn't there because Rhett touched his chest. It was there because the next video was about the heart. And Rhett didn't know that. But he listened to the narration and finally convinced himself this was a great way to get the questions answered that he had. That's why when Dr. Hammond opened the door, Rhett's rear end was about a foot from the TV, his trousers were around his ankles, and he was furiously pushing on his cheeks with both hands. Doctor said, "Rhett, what are you doing?" Rhett straightened up and turned toward the door, naked as a newborn, trying to be careful not to get tripped up and fall over. "Your TV doesn't work, Doc. I'm trying to find out about my prostate. Now it's talking about my spleen." Well, Dr. Hammond turned and took a deep breath, and he said, "Are you having any pain or anything unusual that might make you think you had a problem?" "No, everything's pretty much okay, I guess." "I'll tell you what, Rhett. Your blood work's back, your PSA numbers are excellent, you're 75 years old. I think we can skip that part this year." "Oh, that's great, Doc. Man, you don't know what a relief that is." Well, Rhett considered it his best exam ever. And so did Dr. Hammond.
Like what you've just heard? I Could Tell You Stories with Jack O'Brien is brought to you by Brick City Digital. Hi, I'm Michael Warren, and at Brick City Digital Marketing, we believe every business has a great story to tell. Our job is to help your business tell your story in a way that brings more customers to your door. We help small businesses just like yours with web design, social media, SEO, video, and more. Visit us online at brickcity.com or call 352-351-1131 for a free consultation.
This is Ocala Talks with Tom Schmidt, bringing stories that are important to our community in and around Ocala. Plus, of course, a splash of sports as well. Now, here's your host, Tom.